We are in lesson 28, session 2 for our math lesson today, and I'm going to begin going over page 584 for all of you guys. And what I wanted to show you really quickly is this model it. And really this represents kind of what we did also in lesson 28, session 1. And so we're going to utilize this model to help us visually represent how to go about adding time at this time. So our word problem up at the beginning of this page, and again I'm on page 584, says Sadie spends 1.5 hours doing homework. She plays outside for 20 minutes and practices the piano for 1/4 hour. How many more minutes does Sadie spend doing homework than practicing the piano and playing outside? So we already know that we have to do some conversions in this problem because we have 1.5 hours and then we convert back to minutes. And we have a fraction here too, that's 1/2. So we need to remember that 1/2 of an hour is actually 30 minutes. And then we know also that 1 hour is 60 minutes. And then we have the word for 1/4 hour also here. And so 1/4 hour is going to be 15 minutes because if I add 15 4 times, I will get 60, which is my total hour in minutes. Okay, so basically what the teaching pages of this is saying is that you can draw a bar to show the amount of time that Sadie spends doing her homework. And then you draw two bars next to each other to show the amount of time she spends playing outside and practicing the piano. And then you draw a bar from the end of those 2 bars to the end of the homework bar to represent how much more time she spends on homework. And it tells you to show all the time in minutes. So we know, and probably what I would have done is, you can tell off the top of your head that 60 plus 30 is 90, but you can go ahead and break up that 1.5 hours. So I can call the hour the 60 minutes and then the half hour 30 minutes. And then those two do indeed total 90. And then what they did is they went ahead and put the amount of time that she practiced the piano right here. So this is piano. And then the 1/4 hour, which is the 15 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. This is playing outside. So 20 minutes was playing outside and 15 minutes, or the 1/4 hour, was playing piano. So modeling it is one way that you can figure out how much more time does she spend on her homework than the other two. And another way that you can do it and you model it is you can simply kind of write out a mathematical equation and say that the homework minutes is the same as the playing and the practicing minutes plus how many more homework minutes she has. And so the equation the book has given to us is this right here. And then we also know that another thing we could do to find out what is left is we can simply go ahead and subtract the 90 minus the 20, and we get 70 for that. And then we can subtract again the 15, and for that we get a total of 55. So she spends 55 more minutes on her homework than she does on practicing piano and playing outside. There's just a couple different ways that you can go about reaching your solution on these mathematical problems. But let's move on and learn a little bit deeper to page 485. So it says, look at the bar model in the first model it. Why do you think the amount of time Sadie does her homework and practices piano changed to a number of minutes? Well, we have to change it to minutes because we have both hours and minutes represented. So you have to use 1 time standard. And because 20 minutes is much smaller than an hour, the time standard we're going to use is minutes. So how much time does Sadie spend doing her homework? Well, it said 1.5 hours, and we know that that is the same as 90 minutes. And how much time does Sadie spend playing outside and practicing the piano? Well, the playing outside was the 20 minutes, and then if I add the practicing piano of 15, I get the 35 minutes that she spent doing both of those things. And now it says to write and solve another equation to model the situation. Use the time Sadie spent doing homework and the total time Sadie spends practicing the piano and playing outside that you found in problem 2 and 3. So again, I would say her total, I would put the homework time, the 90 minus the 35, and that can give us our difference. And when we work that out, we see that the answer here is actually 45. Did I miscalculate on the last one? Huh. Oh, excuse me, there's my mistake. What a silly nilly. Why did I put a 7? It is 55. I changed my 9 to a 7. It's always good to check over your work just to make sure. Again, 90 minus 35 is 55. And number 5 says, look back at the equation at the bottom of the previous page. How is that equation similar to or different from the equation you wrote in problem 4? Well, the problem at the bottom of the page, it has you try to balance out both of these sides. But I feel that it's a little bit different than ours because what we get in ours is the hours left. So I would do homework minus playing minus practicing. Minus practicing minus leftover, and that will equal what is left over. So there's a couple ways that you can actually try to solve these equations. I'll show you that. So again, I wrote, the way that I solved it out right here is the homework minus the playing minus the practicing, and that gives me the leftover minutes. And so it's really, number 6 is really up to you to decide which model you think works better for solving these equations. And we're going to practice some of these on the next page, on page 586. And this problem says, Coach Douglas has a soccer practice from 4 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. The team spends 10 minutes stretching and 1/2 of an hour passing the ball. The team spends the rest of the time on skills drills. How many minutes does the team spend on skills drills? Use the number line to help solve the problem and show your work. Well, we can go ahead and just kind of eyeball, I think, what 10 minutes would be. So 10 minutes, we're at now 4:10, and this represents the time that we stretched. And then we spend 30 minutes because that's a 1/2 of an hour. So I'm just gonna add a 30 minutes up here. So now we're at 4:40 passing. So the time, it says, how many minutes does a team spend on skill drills? This last portion is gonna be our skill drills. And there's one way, what I would do in this situation is I would try and jump to what I know 5 o'clock is somewhere. So when I go from 4:40 to 5 o'clock, that's 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes there. And then I have to go from 5 o'clock to 5:15, and that is 15 more minutes. So my answer then would be 35 total minutes. I'm gonna write that right here. And I'm gonna reconfirm what it is actually asking me. How many minutes does the team spend on skill drills? The team spends 35 minutes on skill drills. Trevor has 1 hour, 15 minutes to practice for the school play. This is 3 times as long as it takes him to finish his homework. How long does it take Trevor to finish his homework? and show your work. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and convert this number 1 hour and 15 minutes into minutes, and I'm going to represent that as a bar here. And so I know that 1 hour is 60 minutes, and 15 more minutes gets me a total of 75 minutes for that bar. Now the question says, or the information that we're given is, this is 3 times as long as it takes him to finish his homework. So I know then that if I were to break up this 75 into 3s, each of these parts has to be equal. So it becomes either a multiplication problem or a division problem. And I'm actually going to divide to figure it out, because I know I have to break this up into 3 because this number is 3 times some other number. And so if I don't know off the top of my head, which I do know the answer, I'm going to go ahead and just divide. So 3 goes into 7 2 times. I multiply 2 times 3 for 6, then I subtract out, and I get 1, and I bring down my 5 for 15. So my new number I'm looking to divide into is 15, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 25 is going to be the number that goes in each of these spots. And I can check that by adding them. 25 plus 25 plus 25 does get me 75. So that is how long it takes Trevor to finish his homework. Okay, our final example before you move on to page 587 and 588 is Kwame spends 3/4 of an hour riding his bike and all. He spends 1/4 of an hour biking to the lake, 10 minutes biking around the lake, and the rest of the time biking home. How many minutes does he spend biking home? Show your work. Okay, so the equation gives us our total, and it is this part right up here. I'm sorry, I should have been highlighting this whole time the key information. So he spends 3/4 of an hour biking in all. And we know that 1/4 is 15 minutes, and they say we have 3 of them. So 15 plus 15 plus 15 is going to be 45 minutes. So I know the total time that he spends biking is going to be 45 minutes. And he spends 1/4 of an hour biking to the lake. So 1/4 we know is represented by 15. 10 minutes biking around the lake. And the rest of the time biking home. How many minutes does he spend biking home? Show your work. Well, I think you can do this very easily 2 ways. You can do the total, which is 45, minus the 15, and then minus the 10. And this is going to get you 30, and then minus your 10, which is going to get you 20. Or you can add these 2 together, the 15 and the 10, which is 25. And subtract that directly from 45. So you can do 45 minus the 25, and that also gets you the same answer of 20. So he spends 20 minutes biking home. Okay? So now you're ready to work on page 587 and 588.